In the sun-weathered fields of Nebraska's Platte River Valley, Thomas Reeves tends to his wheat farm with the measured patience of someone who's spent a lifetime reading the land. To his neighbors, he's just the quiet newcomer who grows the county's finest winter wheat and keeps mostly to himself. They see his calloused hands and gentle demeanor, never suspecting that those same hands once wielded weapons with lethal precision in the world's most dangerous combat zones. What the Red Serpent Gang is about to learn the hard way is that Thomas Reeves has another name in classified military records. For 12 years, he was Shadowmaker, the Army's most decorated close-quarters combat specialist, with a service record so classified that entire missions exist only as redacted pages in Pentagon archives. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The morning dew clings to endless rows of wheat as Thomas Reeves conducts his daily perimeter check, each step placed with unconscious precision born from years of training he pretends to have forgotten. His boots leave careful impressions in the soft earth as he pauses at the eastern fence line, ostensibly examining a loose post, but actually scanning the distant tree line with practiced efficiency. The rumble of approaching vehicles catches his attention. 3 heavy trucks, he notes automatically. Diesel engines, likely modified, same as yesterday but different drivers. His fingers work the fence wire with mechanical efficiency while his mind calculates distances, sight lines, and potential cover positions. "Post, giving you trouble again?" Sarah Chen's voice carries from the neighboring property, his closest neighbor and the county's only veterinarian. Her arrival isn't coincidental. They both know what those trucks mean. "Just needs tightening before harvest," Thomas calls back, keeping his tone casual. After 3 years in the valley, he's perfected the art of appearing ordinary, of making people forget to look too closely at the man who appeared one day with cash for a foreclosed farm and a story about wanting a quiet life. The trucks grow louder, then fade, another drive-by like the dozen others this week. Red Serpent Gang marking their territory, building patterns, looking for weaknesses. Thomas recognizes their tactics. He'd used similar techniques himself in another life, in places where stakes were measured in blood and body counts. Inside his farmhouse, the morning paper lies open on the kitchen table. Another local farm sold well below market value, the 3rd one this month. The coffee maker burbles as Sarah enters, her weathered face creased with concern. Their morning coffee ritual has become an informal intelligence briefing, though neither acknowledges it as such. "Miller's place went for 40 cents on the dollar," she says, pouring 2 cups. "Sheriff Thompson claims old Joe was eager to sell, but Joe Miller's worked that land for 30 years. Thomas finishes, accepting the coffee. Never mentioned selling before Red Serpent showed up. The sound of engines returns, closer this time. Through the kitchen window, Thomas spots the vehicles. 3 modified pickup trucks, their red snake emblems clearly visible. Marcus Kane rides point in a jacked-up Ford, his enforcers flanking him in matching black Rams. They're getting bolder. "Deputy Rogers stopped by yesterday," Sarah continues, her voice carefully neutral. "Says they're just passing through, part of some agricultural investment group." Her tone makes clear what she thinks of that story. "And you believe that?" Thomas keeps his voice steady, but his eyes never leave the vehicles. "About as much as you do." Sarah knows her friend, knows the warrior hidden beneath his quiet demeanor. The question is, what are they really after? The trucks pass his driveway slowly, Kane's head turning to study the property. Thomas notes how the gang leader's gaze lingers on key tactical positions. The barn's upper window, the equipment shed sightlines, the elevated grain silo that overlooks the main approach. "They're planning something," he says softly. "Those aren't random patrols. They're gathering intel, establishing patterns, looking for..." He catches himself, nearly slipping into tactical terminology that would seem odd coming from a simple farmer. The distant rumble of more engines draws their attention. This time, it's Dr. Michael Foster's pickup truck, surrounded and forced to stop by Kane's vehicles. Thomas sets down his coffee, body tensing imperceptibly as he watches the confrontation unfold. The day has barely begun, but already Thomas can feel the weight of his past settling back onto his shoulders. The quiet farmer routine he's carefully maintained is about to be tested, and the Red Serpent gang is about to learn why some men are best left undisturbed. Kane's voice carries across the morning air, his false friendliness poorly masking menace as he leans toward Dr. Foster's truck window. "Doc, been meaning to talk to you about that clinic lease of yours." The gang leader's custom Ford idles menacingly close to the doctor's driver's side door. Thomas watches from his kitchen window, his farmer's stance masking the combat veteran's. Analysis of the situation. 3 vehicles, 6 men, all armed based on their jacket bulges and practiced postures. Military hardware, not common street weapons. Even from this distance, he notes their professional positioning, classic intimidation formation designed to control sight lines and prevent escape. Dr. Foster's response is inaudible, but his body language speaks volumes. Shoulders rigid, hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel. Thomas recognizes the signs of someone being cornered, someone being forced into a decision they don't want to make. "Think carefully about our offer." Kane's voice carries that practiced tone of reasonable negotiation. "Hate to see anything happen to that nice new medical equipment you just installed." The threat hangs in the air like gunsmoke as the trucks roar away, leaving Foster's pickup in a cloud of dust. "They're not just targeting farms," Sarah observes quietly, her veterinary practice giving her a unique window into the community's pulse. The clinic, the grain elevator, even old Thompson's feed store, they're systematically pressuring every vital business in the valley. Thomas turns from the window, his mind already calculating angles and options. The tactical part of him, the part he's kept carefully hidden behind wheat fields and tractor maintenance, recognizes the pattern. "Standard strategy," he says, careful, to keep his tone casual. "Control the infrastructure, control the community." Another convoy of vehicles appears on the horizon, dust clouds rising behind 5 trucks moving in formation. Thomas's enhanced hearing picks up fragments of radio chatter, professional communications, not the usual gang banter. The pieces start falling into place. "Sarah," he says quietly, "I think you should head into town. Maybe check on that storage unit we never talk about." His neighbor nods, understanding perfectly. The time for maintaining cover is ending. As Sarah's truck disappears down the dirt road, Thomas retrieves his binoculars from a hidden compartment beneath the kitchen floorboards. Through the powerful lenses, he studies Kane's approaching convoy. The gang leader rides point, but Thomas's attention focuses on the passenger in the lead truck. A man in tactical gear, poorly concealed beneath civilian clothes. His bearing, his movement patterns, the way he constantly scans the environment, all scream professional military background. The trucks pull into Thomas's driveway, gravel crunching under heavy tires as they spread out in a practiced formation. Kane's enforcers establish perimeter positions while the tactical passenger approaches with the gang leader. Thomas notes their weapons, not just standard gang artillery, but military-grade hardware that shouldn't be available on the civilian market. "Mr. Reeves," Kane's voice carries that false charm that poorly masks predatory intent. "Beautiful. Morning for a visit." His boots crunch on gravel as he approaches the porch steps, stopping just short. "Got a business proposition for you?" Through his screen door, Thomas spots movement in the tree line. More men taking concealed positions, their camouflage and equipment suggesting professional training. This is no ordinary gang operation. The question is, what are they really after? Your land sits on a crucial transportation corridor. The tactical passenger speaks, his clipped tones confirming Thomas's suspicions about his background. We're prepared to offer significantly above market value. A burst of static comes from the man's radio, partially masked by interference. Shipment confirmed at Echo Point. Need cleanup at waypoint 3. The tactical operator silences the radio. Quickly, but Thomas's enhanced hearing has already caught the coded military terminology. Kane steps forward, boots on the first porch step. $2 million, Mr. Reeves. That's our opening offer. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. Because we respect what you've built here. Thomas maintains his simple farmer demeanor, but his mind processes every detail. The military presence, the coded communications, the strategic importance of his land's location. This isn't about local extortion. It's something bigger, something that explains why a sophisticated operation would hide behind a common gang's facade. I need time to think about it, Thomas responds, letting uncertainty color his voice. My wife, she's attached to the place. Of course. Kane backs away, maintaining eye contact. We understand. Family considerations are important. The threat in his tone is clear. We'll give you 24 hours to make the right choice for your family's sake. As the convoy departs, Thomas spots 2 vehicles breaking formation, heading north toward what they called Echo Point. Another piece of the puzzle slots into place. Through his hidden surveillance cameras, he watches Kane's trucks split up, taking different routes, establishing patrol patterns that seem random but reveal professional tactical training. Inside his house, Thomas moves with focused purpose. Hidden caches reveal weapon caches his neighbors never suspected existed. Surveillance equipment emerges from concealed compartments. In his basement, a secure satellite phone connects to numbers that shouldn't exist, asking questions about military hardware appearing on the civilian market. The quiet farmer routine is ending, the warrior is awakening, and the Red Serpent Gang is about to learn why some men's pasts are best left unexplored. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. Pre-dawn light creeps over the Nebraska plains as Thomas retrieves his hidden trail cameras. The memory cards contain 3 days of surveillance. Every vehicle passing the North Road, every suspicious movement near Echo Point. He works with practiced efficiency, leaving no trace of his presence. Years of special operations experience don't fade. They just find new applications. The town's general store lights are already on when he arrives. William Parker's ancient pickup sitting alone in the gravel lot, frost still coating its windshield. Thomas notes fresh tire tracks in the mud. Someone's been watching the store all night, professional surveillance patterns evident in the positioning. Didn't expect anyone this early. William's voice carries forced cheerfulness as Thomas enters. The store owner's hands shake slightly as he arranges canned goods, eyes darting frequently to the window. Coffee's fresh if you'd like some. Thomas studies the store's interior, noting signs of a recent confrontation. Scattered merchandise hastily replaced, a broken shelf poorly repaired, subtle marks on William's face suggesting recent violence. Rough night? Just some new customers. William attempts a smile that doesn't reach his eyes, very persistent about their shopping preferences. A truck rumbles past outside, one of Kane's enforcers making his morning patrol. Thomas watches through the window as the vehicle parks across the street, maintaining clear sight lines into the store. They're demanding protection money, William whispers, arranging cans with shaking hands. Said if I don't pay, accidents might happen. Deliveries getting lost, health inspectors finding violations. He straightens a display of local honey, talking without making eye contact. Last night that big one, calls himself Viper, made it clear I had until Friday. Thomas's hand tightens imperceptibly on his coffee cup. Through the window, he spots Deputy Rogers' patrol car approaching. The deputy parks deliberately between the store and the gang vehicle's observation position. "Mr. Reeves," Lisa Rogers enters, nodding professionally. Her uniform is crisp, but dark circles under her eyes suggest long nights. "Mind if I join you?" The gang vehicle revs its engine in obvious irritation before speeding away. Thomas notes how it takes the North Road, another piece of the pattern. The deputy spreads photographs on the counter, surveillance shots from Echo Point taken last night. "Been monitoring unusual traffic patterns," she says quietly. "Got some interesting images." The photos show vehicles arriving at a seemingly abandoned grain storage facility, expensive SUVs with blacked-out windows, rental trucks with missing plates. But Thomas's attention fixes on cargo being unloaded, long crates with distinctive military markings. "Those aren't farming supplies," he observes neutrally. "No, sir." Lisa's voice carries controlled anger. "And the men unloading them had military bearing, professional, not your typical gang members." She hesitates. "Sheriff says it's not our jurisdiction to leave it alone, but my brother served. I know military hardware when I see it. New engines approach, multiple vehicles, heavy motors." Thomas guides both William and Lisa away from the windows as three of Kane's trucks return, their formation suggesting anticipated violence. "Think carefully about your insurance payments, Bill," Viper calls through the open door. "Rates go up fast in these parts." Lisa moves to intervene, but Thomas's hand on her arm stops her. "Not yet," he says softly. "Some battles need proper preparation." The trucks roar away, but their message lingers. William's hands still shake as he straightens. "Merchandise. There's more," Lisa continues once they're gone. "County records show most of these property sales aren't just below market value. They're being processed through shell companies, businesses that didn't exist a month ago, and the paperwork's getting rushed through." She stops. Implications. "Clear. Signatures verified by Sheriff Thompson," Thomas finishes. Another piece of the puzzle. Lisa nods grimly. Someone's building something big, using the gang as muscle, using legitimate businesses as cover. But what worries me most? She produces one final photo. A familiar face, meeting with Kane at Echo Point. Thomas studies the image carefully. The man with Kane carries himself with military precision, wears civilian clothes that don't quite hide his tactical gear. He recognizes the type, private military contractor, probably ex-special forces, the real professionals behind Red Serpent's operation. "Deputy," he says carefully, "those traffic cameras you installed last week, any interesting patterns?" Lisa's tone suggests understanding. "Might take me a few days to adjust them, reposition some, particularly around waypoint 3, wherever that is." Thomas nods appreciation for the deputy's careful phrasing. "William, about that insurance problem. I might know someone who specializes in high-risk coverage." Later, driving home, Thomas spots fresh truck tracks turning north toward Echo Point. Their pattern suggests heavy loads, military transport protocols. He pulls off at a hidden turnout, retrieving a satellite phone from a concealed compartment. The number he dials hasn't been used in years, but old connections never really die. When the line connects, he speaks in clipped tones that would surprise his neighbors. Authentication code Shadowmaker 7. Need background on private military operations in Nebraska sector. Focus on weapons trafficking patterns matching Salvador protocols. The response is immediate. Shadowmaker confirm. Contact data incoming. Be advised multiple agencies monitoring similar activity. Region designated high priority. Thomas ends the call, mind processing implications. Red Serpent isn't just another gang. They're frontline troops in something bigger, probably not even aware who they're really working for. But now a shadow is watching, gathering intelligence, preparing to strike. And shadows, as certain people are about to learn, are very patient hunters. Sarah's truck kicks up dust as it races down the farm road, moving faster than her usual careful pace. Thomas spots 3 of Kane's vehicles following at a distance, harassment becoming more overt. He waits on the porch, counting seconds until the trucks turn back, noting their patrol pattern. His surveillance cameras capture every detail. "Banks, refusing our equipment loan," Sarah announces as she exits her truck, hands shaking with barely controlled anger. She hands him a folder of papers. "Manager couldn't look me in the eye, just kept saying policies had changed." She pauses, jaw tightening. Then I saw who was waiting in his office, Kane and Sheriff Thompson. Thomas scans the documents, noting irregularities. Loan applications suddenly denied, property taxes reassessed, equipment leases appearing from nowhere. Financial warfare designed to pressure sellers into quick deals. His satellite phone vibrates. With an encrypted message, background checks on Kane's operation, revealing connections to private military contractors, weapons, smuggling routes matching known trafficking patterns. "That's not all," Sarah continues, voice low. "Overheard Kane talking about shipping manifests, military equipment being moved through old grain transport routes. Sheriff's deputies are being told to avoid certain roads on certain nights." A truck appears on the horizon, Dr. Foster's vehicle, moving erratically, 2 gang vehicles flanking it aggressively, forcing him onto the shoulder. Thomas's hand tightens on the porch railing, body tensing as he recognizes Viper and another enforcer performing the escort. The truck skids to a stop. In their yard, Foster stumbles out, medical bag clutched tight, his clinic coat showing signs of a struggle, torn sleeve, muddy handprint on the back. Inside, Thomas orders, scanning for surveillance. The gang trucks circle once before departing, a clear message delivered. "They're not even trying to hide it anymore." Foster's voice shakes as he accepts Thomas's offered coffee. 4 men in tactical gear came to the clinic, said they needed a discreet medical facility, someone to handle workplace accidents without asking questions. He opens his bag, removing a crumpled paper. "I found this in one of their jackets when they were intimidating my nurse." Thomas studies the document. Partial shipping manifest, professional formatting, military equipment, being moved through multiple checkpoints, each requiring medical coverage for high-risk operations. His training recognizes the implications immediately. "Called Sheriff Thompson," Foster continues. "He said they're legitimate security contractors, that I should cooperate. Then Viper showed up, said the same thing more, directly." He pushes up his sleeve, revealing finger-shaped bruises. Made his point clear. Sarah moves to say something, but Thomas raises his hand slightly. Engine sounds approach. Not trucks this time, but a black SUV with tinted windows, followed by 2 gang vehicles. "Sarah," he says quietly, "get Foster to the back room. Call Deputy Rogers. Tell her it's time." Kane exits the SUV, but he's not alone. The tactical operator from the surveillance photos joins him, their approach showing practiced coordination, flanked by Viper and another enforcer. Thomas lets his posture suggest fear, but his mind catalogues tactical details. How many weapons they're carrying, their fields of fire, the way the contractor favors his left side suggesting an old injury. "Mr. Reeves," Kane's false charm has vanished, replaced by cold efficiency. "We need to conclude our business today." The contractor steps forward, his stance, his bearing, the way his eyes constantly scan everything screaming special operations. Background. "Sir, I represent certain development interests. We've acquired all necessary properties in this area, except yours. This is a courtesy call before legal proceedings begin." A phone rings. The contractor answers, steps away to talk. Thomas's enhanced hearing catches fragments. "Shipment confirmed. Security teams in position. Medical coverage arranged. 2 hours. 2 million, last offer," Kane states flatly. "Sign the transfer papers. Take the money. Leave the area, or we do this differently. He glances toward Foster through the window. The good doctor's already learned about different approaches. Don't make us teach you too. They depart with military precision, but Thomas catches the contractor, making hand signals to hidden observers. More vehicles appear on distant ridgelines, Red Serpent deploying in force. Inside, Thomas moves with focused purpose. Hidden caches reveal weapon caches Sarah never knew existed. Surveillance equipment emerges from concealed compartments. Those aren't regular contractors, Foster observes, recognizing military gear. Private security doesn't carry that level of hardware. No, Thomas agrees, checking sightlines through windows. They're running a major weapons smuggling operation, using the gang for cover, buying properties to control transport routes. The clinic would handle any casualties, keep things quiet. His voice shifts to the clipped tones of operational planning, a burst of static from a hidden radio. Deputy Rogers' voice. Multiple vehicles moving north. Military transport pattern. They're mobilizing. Thomas watches his security feeds as Sarah helps Foster process what's happening. Alex, what aren't you telling me about this land? Why did you really choose it? He answers quietly. The sight lines, the defensive positions, the old Prohibition-era tunnel system, perfect for monitoring north-south traffic through the valley. He meets her eyes. Perfect for a shadow to hunt from. Outside, more trucks gather on distant roads. Red Serpent is preparing for war, not realizing they're just pawns in a larger game. But Thomas Reeves didn't spend 12 years as Shadowmaker by being predictable. Sarah, he says softly, remember that storage unit? Time to open everything, all of it. The Shadow is done watching. The real operation is about to begin. Darkness shrouds the valley as Thomas checks his surveillance feeds. The old hunting cameras, strategically placed weeks ago, show Red Serpent's entire operation. Trucks moving in formation, vehicles arriving at Echo Point, contractors establishing security perimeters. They think they're being careful. They don't realize they're being hunted. His satellite phone buzzes. Deputy Rogers' coded message. Multiple vehicles at Waypoint 3, military crates, armed escorts. Through his spotting scope, Thomas watches. Contractors direct a convoy of unmarked trucks. Their movements are professional, coordinated, but they've missed the obvious. High ground gives clear views of their secret route. Sarah returns from town, her expression grim. They're hitting everyone now. William's store, the diner, even old Thompson's feed supply. Viper and his crew are leading teams through town, demanding protection money, making examples of anyone who resists. A scream pierces the night, William Parker's voice carrying from the general store. Thomas is already moving as 3 trucks roar past his farm, Kane leading the pack toward town. They're escalating faster than expected, forcing him to accelerate his timeline. Stay here, he tells Sarah, retrieving gear from hidden caches. If Kane comes, stick to the story. Just a frightened farmer considering their offer. The store's windows are broken when he arrives, merchandise scattered across the sidewalk. 2 enforcers stand guard outside while Kane and Viper terrorize those inside. Deputy Rogers' patrol car sits empty nearby. They've timed this during her northern route. Thomas approaches like any concerned neighbor would, but his mind calculates angles, positions, vulnerabilities. Through the broken glass, he sees William backed against the register, his teenage daughter Emily held roughly by Viper. Insurance. Payments doubled, Kane announces, sweeping canned goods off shelves. Price of doing business keeps going up. Shame if something happened to your girl while she's walking home from school. Everything all right here? Thomas's voice carries just the right mix of concern and fear. Perfect bait. Viper shoves Emily aside, turning toward the new target. Private business discussion, Mr. Reeves. Best move along before you have your own accident. Thomas lets them see his trembling hands, his nervous posture, lets them think they're the predators. But he's already noted their tactical mistakes. Poor position relative to exits, weapons stored for show rather than quick access, no real combat awareness. "Just came to buy supplies," he stammers carefully, moving to block their sightlines. Through the front windows. "Please don't hurt anyone." A vehicle approaches, not police, but one of the contractor's SUVs. The driver, face hidden behind tactical gear, signals urgently to Kane. Thomas catches their whispered conversation. "Shipment compromised, mechanical failures. Need immediate backup." Through the static, Thomas hears growing chaos. Trucks broken down, mysterious equipment failures, security cameras malfunctioning, almost like someone with military experience had anticipated their route and taken appropriate countermeasures. "We're not finished here," Viper growls, shoving past Thomas. The gang roars away toward Echo Point, leaving scattered merchandise and terrified civilians in their wake. "They'll be back," William whispers, holding his sobbing daughter. "Probably. Bring more next time, make an example." "No," Thomas says quietly, helping them clean up. "They won't." Through the window, he spots Deputy Rogers' patrol car returning, right on schedule, everything proceeding according to plan. His phone vibrates, encrypted message from old military contacts. Surveillance confirmed, weapons matching restricted. NATO protocols, international buyers involved. Another message follows from Lisa. "Sheriff Thompson ordering patrols away from North Roads tonight. Major shipment planned." Thomas helps William board up windows while his mind processes intel. Red Serpent is just the visible threat, street-level muscle. The real operation is bigger. Professional contractors, international arms dealers, corrupted officials. A complex machine with many moving parts, but machines can be broken piece by piece, component by component. The store's landline rings, Kane himself making threats, demanding compliance. But Thomas hears something else in the background. Arguing contractors, frustrated buyers, operational plans unraveling as equipment mysteriously fails. "They're getting desperate," he tells William once the call ends, "making mistakes, showing their hand." "How can you be so sure?" Thomas allows himself a small smile. "Because I've seen this before. Men like this, they thrive on fear, control, intimidation. Take that away." He lets the thought hang as more trucks roar past, heading north with increasing urgency. His phone buzzes again. Sarah warning that Kane is heading toward the clinic. The next phase is starting, pressure increasing as their operation faces delays, but pressure reveals weaknesses, creates opportunities. Time to let them think they've won the first round. Let them focus on bullying shopkeepers and threatening clinics. Let them miss the shadow, methodically dismantling their operation piece by piece. Thomas leaves William with Deputy Rogers, then drives toward the clinic. He can already hear vehicles converging there, Kane and his enforcers ready to make examples. They'll expect to find a scared doctor, an empty clinic, an easy target. Instead, they're about to learn why some targets aren't as defenseless as they appear, why some hunters prefer to be underestimated. The shadow is done gathering intelligence. Time to start the real operation. The clinic's parking lot fills with trucks. As Thomas pulls up, counting heads through his peripheral vision. Viper and another enforcer flank the entrance, while two more circle the building. Kane's personal vehicle watches the street, hand resting on his concealed weapon. Their positioning is aggressive but predictable, standard intimidation tactics, lacking real tactical awareness. Inside, Dr. Foster faces down Kane and two contractors in tactical gear. Foster's voice carries through the open door, steady despite the pressure. "I don't care about your permits. This is my clinic, and you don't dictate medical policy here." Actually, Kane's tone suggests barely controlled rage. "We do, unless you want the State Medical Board to receive some concerning documentation about prescription irregularities." Thomas enters like any concerned citizen would, projecting nervousness and uncertainty. But his mind maps exit routes, catalogues, weapons, notes the contractor's equipment, high-end tactical gear, military-grade communications, the kind of hardware that requires special connections. "What's happening?" he asks, letting fear color his voice. "Dr. Foster, are you all right?" Kane turns, frustration evident. Seems everyone's making poor choices today. First the store, now the clinic. He gestures to the contractors. "These gentlemen need to establish a private medical facility. Dr. Foster is being unreasonable about sharing space." The lead contractor steps forward, hand drifting toward his concealed holster. "Sir, this is a private matter. I suggest you leave." Viper moves to herd Thomas toward the door, but Thomas notes his sloppy approach, his poor balance, the 3 seconds it would take him to draw his weapon. Amateur mistakes that will matter very soon. A phone rings. The contractor answers, face darkening. "What do you mean another truck is down? That's 4 mechanical failures in 2 hours. Fix it." He turns to Kane. "Buyers are getting nervous. Need this corridor secured now? Then let's solve both problems." Kane nods to Viper and another enforcer. "Show Dr. Foster what happens to uncooperative business owners. Make it messy enough to motivate Mr. Reeves's upcoming property decision." The enforcers advance, but Thomas is already moving. His stumble appears clumsy, but puts him inside Viper's strike range. The enforcer's swing misses as Thomas, seemingly, trips into another gang member, his apparent fall masking the precise pressure point strike that leaves the man gasping. A medical cart tips, appearing to catch Thomas as he falls, but sending precision-aimed surgical instruments into another enforcer's path. He stumbles again, somehow tangling another gang member's feet as he charges, sending him crashing into his own allies. The contractors recognize the technique, even if they don't spot its source, professional defensive tactics disguised as civilian clumsiness. Their hands move toward weapons, but Deputy Rogers' sudden arrival freezes everyone. "Everything all right here?" Lisa asks, hand resting meaningfully on her sidearm. Her patrol car blocks the exit, dash camera recording. Kane forces a smile. "Just a misunderstanding. Our friends were leaving." He glares at Foster. "We'll continue this discussion later." But Thomas catches his whispered command to the contractors. "Full response tonight. Make examples." The gang mounts up, their intimidation play ruined. But Thomas notes their departure routes, their rally points, the way they split up to cover different sectors. Their planned operation is clearly larger than simple real estate fraud. "They'll be back," Foster says once they're gone, "probably with more muscle. Count on it." Thomas helps clean up the clinic, positioning certain items for quick access. Later, "Your security cameras working?" "Crashed this morning, along with half their vehicles." Foster's smile holds grim understanding. Amazing how much can go wrong when certain people push too hard. Thomas's phone vibrates, encrypted message from his military contact. "Buyers identified, international arms dealers, heavy weapons, deal scheduled tonight." Through the window, he spots Sheriff Thompson's patrol car meeting Kane's crew behind the lumber yard. More pieces falling into place, the real operation about to begin. "Lisa," he turns to the deputy, "about those traffic cameras you installed last week. Any interesting patterns?" "Multiple vehicles converging tonight, different approach routes, all heading north." Her expression suggests she's guessed some of Thomas's background. "Might need extra patrols in certain areas. Shame if someone interfered with their schedule." Thomas nods, mind already planning next moves. Red Serpent thought they were attacking a simple clinic, never realizing they'd revealed vital operational details. "Dr. Foster," he says quietly, "remember that contingency plan we discussed? Time to implement all of it." His phone buzzes again. Sarah reporting increased activity at his farm's border, Kane's crew returning in force, probably planning to make examples of uncooperative landowners. "Perfect. Let them come. Let them think their intimidation is working. Let them miss the real operation until it's too late. The shadow has their measure now." The real hunting is about to begin. The town of Liberty Creek transforms as sunset approaches. Shops close early, windows shutter, streets empty. Red Serpent trucks patrol in formation, their presence no longer pretending to be casual. Viper leads a team down Main Street, while Kane's other enforcers systematically visit businesses, delivering final warnings. Thomas watches from William's store, noting patrol patterns, 3 trucks at the north end, 2 south, others circling intermittently. Professional coverage suggesting military consultation, but with obvious blind spots they don't realize exist. "They hit the feed store an hour ago," William whispers, hands shaking as he loads his old shotgun. "Broke Jim Thompson's arm when he tried to argue." Sheriff Thompson just watched through the window. Through his concealed scope, Thomas spots unfamiliar vehicles arriving. Expensive SUVs with diplomatic plates, men in suits that don't quite hide shoulder holsters. The buyers Kane's been waiting for. Deputy Rogers has eyes on them, Sarah continues, showing Thomas her phone. Lisa's message is clear. 3 more vehicles at Echo Point, heavy security, military-grade weapons visible. His satellite phone vibrates. A coded warning from Sarah that more trucks are approaching his farm. Viper leading an aggressive show of force. Exactly as expected, their pressure increasing as the weapons deal approaches. "Time to go," Thomas tells William. "Remember a plan: when they come, give them what they expect." Outside, he notes Viper speaking urgently with one of the contractors, their body language suggesting growing tension. Something's wrong with their carefully planned operation. Equipment failures, mechanical problems, communication issues, almost like someone's systematically disrupting their infrastructure. His phone buzzes again, encrypted message from military contacts. Buyers confirmed, Serbian arms dealers, heavy hardware deal scheduled 2200 hours. Through his surveillance feed, Thomas spots Sheriff Thompson's patrol car rolling past, escorting another SUV. Through tinted windows, he sees Kane meeting with men whose bearing screams Special Forces background. More layers of the operation revealed. Tom Foster's voice carries controlled urgency as he exits the clinic. They're moving something into the old grain storage tunnels, multiple trucks, armed guards. The tunnels, of course. Thomas's mind maps the old grain transport network beneath the valley, perfect for moving illegal cargo, avoiding main roads. He'd studied those tunnels for months, knowing they'd be crucial. A commotion erupts at the feed store, Viper and his crew making examples of another uncooperative owner. But Thomas notes how their violence seems forced, almost desperate. They're behind schedule, buyers getting nervous, pressure building. His phone records it all. Lisa's message confirms, "Got everything on camera. Thompson involved directly now." More trucks roar past, heading north. Thomas spots military grade. Cases poorly concealed under tarps. Sloppy, they're rushing now, making mistakes. The shadows' strategic disruption pushing them toward inevitable errors. Multiple vehicles approaching from county line, Sarah reports through their secure channel. Heavy security looks like the main shipment starting. Thomas drives toward his farm, noting increased activity, Red Serpent members everywhere, their previous attempts at subtlety abandoned. They think they're showing force. Actually, they're revealing their entire operational structure. Sarah meets him at the gate. "Found something in the old barn. Records. These tunnels, they don't just run under our property. They connect to the abandoned railroad line, come up right behind Echo Point. Show me." The tunnel entrance is hidden behind decades of debris, but the airflow suggests recent use. Thomas's flashlight reveals fresh tire tracks, scuff marks from heavy crates. They've been using these passages, never realizing who else knows about them. His military-grade scope shows increased activity at Echo Point. Trucks arriving, armed. Contractors establishing perimeter security. Kane coordinating with the weapons buyers. Everything proceeding according to their plan and according to his. They're getting ready, Sarah observes, watching trucks gather at their property line. Probably hit us after dark, make an example. Yes. Thomas checks his watch, calculating. Timing. They'll want to clear any resistance before the main shipment moves. Standard tactical protocol. He allows himself a small smile. Shame they don't know about the other tunnels, or the old railroad maintenance sheds, or certain equipment. Installed months ago. A message from Lisa. Thompson ordered all patrols away from North Roads. Perfect. Let them think they control the situation. Let them focus on intimidating locals while missing the real operation happening right under them. Thomas's phone lights up. Time to coordinate with military contacts with Lisa, with Foster, with William. Everyone in position, playing their roles. Red Serpent thinks they're about to demonstrate their power. Instead, they're about to learn why some predators prefer to be underestimated. The real operation begins at sunset. The Shadow is ready to show them exactly who they're dealing with. Through his scope, Thomas watches Kane's operation mobilize. His mind already 3 moves ahead. Sometimes the most dangerous hunter isn't the one making threats. Sometimes it's the quiet one, the patient one, the one who was a master of shadow warfare long before he ever learned to farm. And shadows, as they're about to learn, are the most lethal hunters of all. Night settles over Thomas's farm as Red Serpent makes their move. Vehicles approach from multiple directions, their formation suggesting military guidance. Kane leads from the north while Viper circles west. 2 more enforcers cover the eastern approach, all converging with practiced coordination. Through his scope, Thomas counts vehicles, 15 trucks, 3 SUVs carrying contractors, Kane's personal vehicle leading. Main force approaching, he tells Sarah, who monitors their security feeds. Right on schedule. Lisa's in position. She confirms. Foster's got the clinic ready. William reports the buyers are getting nervous, their timeline's off. Headlights illuminate the property as vehicles surround the farm. Kane dismounts, contractors flanking him with professional precision. Their weapons remain concealed, keeping up appearances despite the obvious military hardware in their vehicles. Last chance, Mr. Reeves. Kane's voice carries forced confidence. Fire sale prices end tonight, along with our patience. Thomas steps onto his porch, maintaining his frightened farmer demeanor. But he's already noted their tactical weaknesses. Poor coverage of the North Ridge, vehicles positioned without proper escape routes, communications relying on unsecured channels. Mr. Kane, he lets his voice shake slightly. Please, we just need more time to... Time's up. He gestures to Viper. Show them what happens to uncooperative neighbors. The enforcers advance, but Thomas is already moving. His stumble appears. Clumsy, but places him exactly where he needs to be. Suddenly, floodlights burst from concealed positions, momentarily blinding the gang members. In the confusion, none of them notice certain vehicles experiencing mysterious mechanical failures.
What the hell?
Viper raises his hand against the glare, missing how Thomas's fearful retreat has separated their formation, created tactical gaps. Radiostatic bursts from the contractors' communications, their supposedly secure channels filling with interference. Coordination compromised. Kane grabs his phone, face darkening as messages arrive. Problems with the weapons shipment, routes unexpectedly blocked, surveillance cameras failing. Sir, one contractor approaches urgently. Main convoys reporting issues. Alternative routes are... They're compromised. Someone knows our backup plans. Thomas watches Kane's composure crack slightly. The operation is unraveling. Equipment failures, communication problems, blocked routes. Almost like someone with military experience has been systematically targeting their infrastructure. Viper moves to grab Thomas, but finds himself strangely off balance, his combat training countered by moves he barely registers. Other gang members face similar problems, weapons catching on holsters, trucks failing to start, tactical positions suddenly exposed. Enough games. Kane signals the contractors. Clear the property. Send a message. But Deputy Rogers' arrival changes the dynamic. Her patrol car's dash camera records everything as she steps out, hand meaningfully near her weapon. Problem here, folks? Just a property dispute. Kane forces a smile. Behind him, contractors desperately try to hide military hardware in their vehicles. Lisa's radio crackles. All units, multiple suspicious vehicles reported north of town. Heavy equipment, military-grade weapons observed. The contractors exchange worried looks. Their operational security is compromised, their timeline disrupted, their routes exposed. Professional operators recognizing when a situation has shifted against them. Pull back, Kane orders finally. Regroup at waypoint 3. But even their retreat reveals operational details, rally points, communication protocols, chain of command. As trucks roar away, Thomas spots a familiar vehicle approaching Echo Point. Sheriff Thompson meeting with the weapons buyers. Their body language suggests growing tension, the deal delayed, security compromised, promises unfulfilled. They'll be back, Sarah says quietly, probably with more force. Count on it. Thomas watches taillights disappear into darkness, but now we know their patterns, their protocols, their weaknesses. His phone lights up with messages, Lisa reporting vehicle movements, Foster confirming clinic preparations, William passing intel about buyer activities, everyone playing their part in the Shadow's carefully orchestrated operation. Tom, Sarah's voice carries growing understanding. Those equipment failures, the blocked routes, the communication problems, that wasn't just luck, was it? He allows himself a small smile. Amazing how many things can go wrong when someone knows what to look for, especially someone with certain training. Through his scope, he watches Red Serpent regrouping at their fallback position, Kane arguing with contractors, professionals realizing their operation is compromised, buyers growing increasingly nervous. Perfect. Let them think tonight was just a show of force gone wrong. Let them miss how much intel they've revealed, how many weaknesses they've exposed. A Shadow knows patience, knows how to turn opponents' strength against them. The real operation is just beginning. And Red Serpent is about to learn why some hunters prefer to be underestimated, why some shadows are best left undisturbed. Get ready, Thomas tells Sarah, checking his hidden equipment. The real phase starts now. Through the darkness, more. Vehicles approach Echo Point, their movements suggesting urgency, desperation. The Shadow has forced them to accelerate their timeline, to make mistakes, to reveal their true nature. Now it's time to spring the trap. Dawn breaks over Liberty Creek as Thomas observes Echo Point through his scope. The weapons buyers' SUVs arrive in force, not just the usual representatives, but senior operators, their presence signaling growing concern about the operation's delays. Viper and two enforcers guard the perimeter while contractors argue with Kane. Even from this distance, Thomas reads the tension in their body language, the professional facade cracking under pressure. His phone buzzes. Message from Foster. 3 gang members came in last night. Injuries consistent with vehicle accidents. They're talking scared about equipment failures, blocked routes. Imperfect. Fear spreading through their ranks exactly as planned. Boss ain't happy, Thomas overhears one enforcer telling another at the gas station. Buyers threatening to pull out. Something about security protocols being compromised. Thomas fills his truck while appearing to ignore them, but his enhanced hearing catches every word. The enforcer's conversation reveals growing doubts about Kane's leadership, about the contractor's competence, about the entire operation. Lisa's patrol car rolls past, her dash camera recording everything. She parks strategically, allowing Thomas to approach while maintaining surveillance. Thompson's getting pressure from both sides, she reports quietly. Buyers want answers about security breaches. Kane's demanding more police cooperation. It's splitting him apart. No. Through the store window, Thomas spots William handling a tense interaction, Viper and his crew attempting intimidation, but their usual confidence is shaken. Too many unexplained accidents, too many failed operations. Found this in the clinic and parking lot. Lisa passes a dropped document, military shipping manifest, partial details about the weapons shipment. Seems their professional operators are getting sloppy. Movement at Echo Point draws Thomas's attention. The buyer security chief confronting Kane, demanding explanations. Their argument carries phrases like operational security and compromised assets, that his phone records everything while seeming to check messages. The Shadow gathering evidence, building pressure, watching his targets tear themselves apart. Got another one, an enforcer reports to Viper nearby. Bike just died on the North Road, same as the others. Something ain't right. Thomas hides, a smile. Amazing how vehicle electrical systems can fail when someone knows exactly where to place certain devices. How communication equipment can malfunction when specific frequencies are disrupted. More trucks roar into town, reinforcements from other gang chapters. But Thomas notes the divisions forming. Older members questioning Kane's leadership, younger ones nervous about increasing police attention. Professional contractors growing frustrated with amateur mistakes. Multiple vehicles approaching from the north, Lisa warns through their coded channel. Buyers brought their own tactical teams. They don't trust Red Serpent's security anymore. Perfect. Let them focus on internal conflicts. Let them miss the real operation happening right under their noses. His satellite phone vibrates. Message from military contacts. Weapons confirmed. Heavy artillery. International black market value significant. Federal response teams standing by. A crash from the store draws attention. Viper taking his frustration out on merchandise, but his usual intimidation lacks conviction. Fear makes men sloppy, reveals weaknesses. Enough! William's voice carries unexpected strength. You want to explain these accidents to your boss, want to tell him why you can't control one small town. Thomas watches the enforcer's reaction, sees doubt creep into his expression, plants the seeds of suspicion with careful words. Lot of strange things happening lately, almost like someone knows your plans before you make them. The suggestion hits home. Viper storms out, but Thomas sees him eyeing his fellow members with new suspicion. The Shadow's whispers spreading discord through their ranks. More vehicles. Gather at Echo Point. Kane attempting to project control, but Thomas spots the cracks in his organization. Contractors arguing about security protocols, buyers threatening to find other suppliers. Sheriff Thompson caught between conflicting demands. His phone lights up with messages from all over town, Lisa reporting vehicle movements, Foster passing intel from injured gang members, William observing buyer activities, everyone playing their part in the Shadow's carefully orchestrated dismantling of Red Serpent. Meeting tonight, he overhears one enforcer tell another. Boss says everyone shows, no excuses. Going to deal with these problems once and for all. Thomas allows himself a small smile. Of course, Kane's calling a meeting. Threatened men always try to reassert control, never realizing they're playing right into a hunter's hands. Through his scope, he watches Echo Point's increasing activity. Contractors establishing defensive positions, buyers conducting their own surveillance, Red Serpent trying to hold their operation together. Let them think they can solve this with shows of force. Let them miss how their own fear is tearing them apart. The Shadow has turned their strength into weakness, their confidence into suspicion. Tonight's meeting will change everything, but not in the way they expect. For now, Thomas returns to his daily routine. The quiet farmer act, masking intense preparation. Sometimes the most effective hunter is the one they never suspect, the one who knows how to wait in plain sight. And shadows are very, very patient. Twilight casts long shadows across Echo Point as vehicles arrive from every direction. Thomas observes through his scope as Red Serpent members gather for Kane's emergency meeting, their formation showing growing division. Older members cluster together while newer recruits maintain distance. Enforcers trying to project authority they no longer fully command. Viper and two others establish perimeter security, but their usual coordination is fractured. Too many unexplained. Accidents have bred suspicion, turned brother against brother. Through his enhanced listening device, Thomas catches their argument. "This ain't right," an enforcer growls. "3 more vehicles down today. Equipment failures, communication blackouts. Someone's playing us." "Watch your tone," Viper warns. But uncertainty edges his voice. Boss has everything under control. From his concealed position, Thomas observes the arrival of more players. Contractors in tactical gear establishing defensive positions. Weapons buyers' security teams conducting counter-surveillance. Sheriff Thompson's patrol car parked discreetly behind the office. Everyone gathering for what they think is a simple meeting. His phone buzzes. Deputy Rogers update. Federal. Task force in position. All roads covered. Waiting for your signal. Perfect. Let them focus on their internal power struggles. Let them miss the real operation surrounding them. Multiple vehicles approaching from the north, Sarah reports through their secure channel. Heavy trucks, military grade. Looks like they're moving the main shipment tonight. Thomas allows himself a small smile. Of course they are. Pressure makes men predictable, forces them to make mistakes like consolidating your entire operation in one location. Inside Echo Point, Kane addresses his assembled crew. Through concealed cameras, Thomas watches the organization fracture in real time. "These setbacks are temporary," Kane's voice carries forced confidence. "Our buyers are satisfied. The shipment moves tonight. Everything proceeds as planned." "What about the accidents?" a younger member challenges. "The equipment failures, the blocked routes?" "Coincidence." Kane dismisses, but Thomas sees doubt spread through the crowd. "Focus on the job. This payoff makes us all rich." His satellite phone vibrates. Message from military contacts. Weapons confirmed. Artillery, anti-tank missiles, experimental prototypes, international terrorists among likely buyers. More vehicles arrive. Expensive SUVs carrying the weapons. Buyers themselves. Their security teams deploy with professional precision, establishing overlapping fields of fire. They're expecting trouble, but not from the direction it's coming. "Lisa's in position," Sarah updates. "Foster's got the clinic prepped." William reports all targets accounted for. Thomas checks his watch. Timing is crucial now. Every piece must move in perfect sequence. Through his scope, he spots the first sign of his plan taking effect. A contractor urgently approaches Kane, showing him something on a laptop. Their operations' carefully secured communications are suddenly broadcasting in the clear, revealing operational details, shipping manifests, buyer identifications. "Sir!" An enforcer bursts into the meeting. "Main convoy hit another roadblock. All alternate routes are. They're compromised. Someone knew our backup plans." The professional facade cracks. Kane's face darkens as more reports flood in. Vehicles disabled, surveillance exposed, escape routes blocked. His carefully planned operation collapsing from within. "Find out who's behind this," he demands. But his authority rings hollow. Thomas triggers the next phase. Suddenly, emergency vehicles appear on distant roads, federal tactical teams taking position. Police lights reflect off Echo Point's windows as Lisa coordinates with state authorities. The net drawing tight. Inside, the meeting dissolves into chaos. Older members demand answers about missing money, younger ones worried about police attention, contractors arguing with Kane about operational security. "Boss!" Viper rushes in. Buyers are pulling out! Say their contacts spotted federal surveillance! International task force involved. The weapons buyer security chief confronts Kane directly. You guaranteed discreet transport, secure routes. Instead, we find amateur mistakes, compromised security, federal attention. Thomas watches through his cameras. As the organization tears itself apart, fear and suspicion spreading like fire through dry grass. A truck engine roars to life, someone trying to move the weapons before it's too late, but Thomas has prepared for this too. Suddenly, Echo Point's floodlights burst on, powered by his pre-positioned generators. Every escape route illuminated, every shadow exposed. This is a federal task force, Lisa's voice booms through police speakers. The facility is surrounded. Surrender now. Panic erupts. Trucks roar in different directions but find all routes blocked. Contractors try to establish defensive positions, but their communications are hopelessly compromised. The weapons buyers' security teams turn on their former allies, trying to distance themselves from the operation. Kane's composure finally shatters. Who did this? He demands, grabbing Viper by his jacket. Who knew our plans? Who exposed our operation? Thomas sends the final signal. Suddenly, every screen in the facility lights up. Surveillance footage, financial records, shipping manifests. The entire criminal enterprise laid bare. Impossible. The contractors recognize military-grade intelligence gathering. This is professional opposition, someone with tactical training. Understanding dawns in Kane's eyes. He turns toward Thomas's farm, finally realizing what he's been dealing with. The farmer, he whispers. He's not. The shadow has sprung its trap. Now it's time to show them exactly who they've been dealing with. Echo Point erupts in chaos as federal teams breach from multiple directions. Thomas monitors through his surveillance network as Red Serpent splinters under pressure. Some members surrender immediately, others follow Kane's desperate orders to resist, while the professional contractors attempt to destroy evidence. Viper tries organizing a defensive position, but their usual coordination crumbles. They're heading for the tunnels! Lisa's voice crackles through secure channels. Kane and the contractors are moving something heavy, military-grade cases. Buyer spotted heading north, Sarah reports from her observation post. 3 SUVs, heavy security. Sheriff Thompson's leading them along back roads. Thomas allows himself a measured smile, everyone playing their predicted roles, walking right into prepared positions. The facility's lower level transforms into a tactical engagement zone, as some Red Serpent members, realizing the scope of federal response, turn on their leaders. "Boss was using us," an enforcer shouts, as federal agents take him into custody. Said it was just land deals, nothing about international weapons. Through the chaos, Thomas tracks Kane's movement. He's heading for the hidden cache, not realizing it has been under surveillance for weeks. Thomas's monitoring equipment catches Kane's hurried orders to the contractors. Secure the prototype weapons. Buyers paid premium for those. Everything else is expendable. Lisa coordinates with federal tactical teams, her local knowledge proving crucial. Main tunnel branches 3 ways. They'll try splitting up. Standard evasion pattern. But Thomas has prepared for this. Hidden sensors track movement through the tunnel network. Emergency bulkheads ready to seal escape routes. Every contingency covered by careful planning. "Foster," he radios the clinic. "Status?" 3 injured being treated, the doctor responds. They're talking, giving details about weapon sources, shipping routes, corrupted officials. Perfect. Fear makes men trade secrets for safety. An explosion rocks the northern tunnel. Contractors trying to collapse access points cover their escape. But Thomas is already moving, his position calculated long ago. Federal teams maintain perimeter, he orders through secure channels. Let them think they have an exit. Kane's voice carries from the tunnel entrance. Get those crates moved. Buyers are waiting at secondary location. Everything else burns. Thomas watches through thermal imaging as they split into 3 groups. Contractors carrying prototype weapons east, Kane and his loyalists heading north. Weapons buyers trying to circle back south, just as he planned. Lisa, take the east tunnel. Sarah, your team has south. I'll handle north. His voice carries the quiet authority that once commanded elite units. Remember, they're desperate. Expect resistance. The tunnel networks echo with gunfire as cornered men make final stands, but Thomas has mapped every corner, every intersection, every potential ambush point. The Shadow knowing his hunting ground perfectly. Federal Team 1, breach west entrance. Lisa coordinates through static. Kane's people are boxed in. No clean exits. More explosions as contractors try destroying evidence, but Thomas's teams have already downloaded their data, documented their operation, secured their connections. Boss! Viper calls urgently. Buyers made contact. Say if we don't deliver. Those prototypes, we're all marked. International players involved. Kane's response is desperate. Nothing leaves. Burn it all. They can't prove anything if evidence disappears. But he's wrong. The Shadow has spent months gathering proof, documenting shipments, tracking money. Every transaction recorded, every meeting photographed, every phone call logged. The battle moves deeper underground as federal teams systematically clear tunnels. Thomas keeps pace easily, his military training evident in every movement. Years of experience reading these situations, predicting desperate men's actions. Multiple contacts, Lisa reports sharply. Contractors trying to break east, military weapons visible. Copy. Enough heard to confirm international trafficking. Affirmative. Got them on tape discussing buyers, prices, connections. Task force has everything needed for prosecution. Perfect. The Shadow's evidence gathering complete. A fresh burst of gunfire erupts near the main cache. Kane making his final stand, surrounded by his few remaining loyalists. Through thermal imaging, Thomas watches their desperate defense crumble. It's over, Marcus, he calls down the tunnel. Your organization's finished. Buyers captured, evidence secured. Surrender now. You don't understand what you've done. Kane's voice carries real fear now. The people behind this operation, they'll burn everything to hide their involvement. You mean like these people? Thomas transmits data through their captured communications, international arms dealers, corrupt military contractors, government officials on criminal payrolls already being arrested worldwide. The effect is immediate. Remaining resistance collapses as Red Serpent members realize the true scope of their situation. They're not just facing local charges, they're caught in an international weapons investigation. Status report, Thomas, demands as federal teams secure the scene. Main cache recovered, Lisa confirms. Prototype weapons secured. International task force documenting everything. Buyers in custody, Sarah adds. Clinic treating minor injuries. Everyone talking to federal agents. Multiple officials identified. Thomas allows himself a moment of satisfaction. Months of planning, of gathering intelligence, of preparing this operation, all coming together perfectly. The Shadow's hunt is almost complete. The weapons traffickers exposed, the corrupt officials identified, Red Serpent dismantled. But there's still one final phase to execute. Because somewhere in those tunnels, Kane and his contractors are making one last desperate move, not realizing they're playing directly into the Shadow's hands. The real endgame is about to begin. Through his thermal imaging, Thomas tracks the remaining targets as they navigate the underground network. Kane and his contractors split up, thinking they're following standard evasion procedures, not realizing they're moving exactly as predicted. Ghost and 2 contractors heading east, Lisa reports through secure channels. Heavy weapons, military gear, moving like professionals. Let them, Thomas responds, monitoring thermal signatures. They'll hit the flood control junction in 3 minutes. The tunnels echo with distant gunfire as federal teams systematically close the net. Years of weapons trafficking about to end where it began, underground, in the dark, with nowhere left to run. "Boss!" An enforcer's voice carries through captured radio frequencies. "Buyers double-crossed us. They're cooperating with feds, trading intel for deals." Kane's response crackles with fury. "Secure those prototype crates. Everything else burns. Leave no evidence." But he's too late. Thomas's teams have already documented everything: shipping manifests, bank transfers, corrupted officials. Months of careful intelligence gathering paying off perfectly. Multiple heat signatures converging on North Tunnel, Sarah reports from her monitoring station. Looks like they're consolidating around the main cache. The Shadow allows himself a measured smile, exactly as expected. Desperate men become predictable, falling back on trained responses like cornered animals returning to familiar ground. An explosion rocks the tunnel system. Contractors trying to collapse access points, but Thomas has prepared for this too. Support structures reinforced weeks ago, escape routes carefully channeled. "Federal Team 1, move to position," he orders, calmly. "Remember, they're trained operators. Expect professional resistance." The battle shifts as Kane's remaining forces realize their situation. Through thermal imaging, Thomas watches the inevitable betrayal unfold. Contractors turning on their employer, each trying to save themselves. "Sir," one contractor radios, urgently, "buyers sent new orders. Say if we deliver the prototypes directly, they'll guarantee extraction." "They're lying." Kane's voice carries genuine fear now. "You deliver those weapons, they'll eliminate everyone who knows about this operation." He's right, but for the wrong reasons. Thomas's intelligence has already exposed the buyer's entire network. International task forces are moving on multiple continents, closing every escape route. "Movement at Junction 7, Lisa reports, sharply. "Final group making their move, heavy weapons visible." "Copy." Thomas moves through darkness with practiced ease. "All teams ready. Let them come to us." Because the most effective trap isn't about blocking escape routes. Sometimes it's about letting targets choose their own fate, letting them run exactly where you want them. Gunfire erupts at multiple points as the operation reaches its climax. Some Red Serpent members surrender, others fight desperately. Professional contractors try maintaining discipline while their plans crumble. "Boss," an enforcer calls through. Static. Feds have the shipping records, every weapon, every buyer, every payoff. It's all exposed. Kane's response is drowned by fresh explosions, contractors detonating charges, trying to destroy evidence. But Thomas has already secured copies of everything, every transaction documented, every connection mapped. Federal Team 2, breach. West entrance. Lisa coordinates through secure channels. Kane's group is contained. No clean exits remaining. The Shadow moves silently through maintenance tunnels, tracking thermal signatures, years of military experience reading the situation perfectly, knowing exactly how cornered operators will react. "Multiple targets converging on main cache," Sarah updates. "Looks like they're preparing final resistance." "Confirmed," Thomas acknowledges. "All teams maintain position. Let them gather." Because sometimes the most dangerous predator isn't the one making threats. Sometimes it's the quiet one, the patient one, the one who's prepared the hunting ground perfectly. The tunnel system trembles with desperate violence. Kane's remaining loyalists making last stands while contractors seek deals. Professional operators discovering their tactical training means nothing against a Shadow who knows their every move. "It's over, Marcus." Thomas's voice carries through their compromised communications. "Your organization's exposed. Your buyers captured. Your operation finished. Surrender now or find out why they called me Shadowmaker." "You don't understand what you've started." Kane's response carries real terror. The people behind this operation, they control everything. They'll burn anyone who threatens them. You mean like these people? Thomas transmits data through captured channels, arms dealers, corrupt contractors, compromised officials already being arrested worldwide. Amazing what happens when someone with intelligence experience decides to hunt. The effect is immediate. Resistance collapses as reality sets in. They're not facing local law enforcement or rival gangs. They're caught in an international operation run by someone who knows exactly how to dismantle criminal empires. Status report, Thomas demands. Federal team securing sections. Main cache documented, Lisa confirms. All prototype weapons accounted for. International task force processing evidence. Clinic treating wounded, Sarah adds. Everyone cooperating with federal agents. Multiple confessions recorded. Perfect. Months of planning culminating exactly as designed. The Shadows operation nearly complete, but there's still one final phase to execute. Because somewhere in those tunnels, Kane and his last contractors are preparing something desperate. Not realizing they're playing directly into Thomas's hands. Through thermal imaging, he tracks their movement. Professional operators following tactical protocols, thinking they're being unpredictable, not understanding those same protocols make them absolutely predictable. All teams hold position, he orders calmly. Let them think they have options. Because the most effective hunt isn't about overwhelming force. Sometimes it's about patience, about letting your targets choose their own fate, about being the quiet predator they never see coming. The Shadow has prepared this ground perfectly. Now it's time to complete the operation, time to show them why some hunters prefer to be underestimated. The tunnel network erupts in chaos as Kane makes his final stand, cornered in the main weapons cache. Surrounded by his last loyal contractors, he watches his carefully built empire crumble. Through thermal imaging, Thomas tracks every movement, every desperate attempt at resistance. Seal the north access, he orders through secure channels. They'll try breaking that direction first. Right on cue, explosions rock the tunnel system, professional operators attempting standard breakthrough tactics, not realizing they're following exactly the response pattern Thomas predicted. Multiple targets moving, Lisa reports urgently. Heavy weapons, military gear, they're getting desperate. The Shadow watches through surveillance feeds as Kane's group splits into strike teams. Final defensive positions around prototype weapons they don't realize are already documented. Every serial number recorded, every shipment tracked, every connection mapped. Boss, Viper's voice carries real fear now. Feds have everything. Shipping records, bank transfers, contact lists. Someone's been gathering intel for months. Kane's response is drowned by fresh gunfire as federal teams systematically close the net, years of weapons trafficking about to end where it started, in darkness, underground, with nowhere left to run. "Sir!" a contractor radios urgently. "Buyers?" Confirmed, cooperating with international authorities. They're burning everyone involved. "Keep those prototypes secure," Kane demands, but his authority rings hollow. Professional operators recognizing a lost cause, already calculating individual survival odds. Thomas moves silently through maintenance passages, years of military experience reading the situation perfectly, knowing exactly how cornered men will react, which protocols they'll follow, what mistakes they'll make. Sheriff Thompson spotted. At emergency exit 8, Sarah updates from her monitoring station. 3 contractors with him carrying marked cases. Copy. The Shadow allows himself a small smile. Let them think they found an escape route, because sometimes the most effective trap isn't about blocking exits. Sometimes it's about letting targets choose their own fate, letting them run exactly where you want them. The battle intensifies as Kane's remaining forces realize their situation. Through thermal imaging, Thomas watches inevitable betrayals unfold. contractors turning on employers, professionals abandoning loyalty for survival. Federal Team 1, breach west entrance, Lisa coordinates through static. Remember, they're trained operators. Expect professional resistance. But Thomas has prepared for every contingency. Hidden sensors tracking movement, reinforced bulkheads ready to seal sections, emergency responses planned months in advance. Multiple heat signatures at Junction 12, Sarah reports. Looks like they're consolidating around the prototype cache. Perfect. Desperate men become predictable, falling back on trained responses like cornered animals returning to familiar ground. An explosion rocks the main chamber. Contractors trying to destroy evidence. But Thomas's teams have already secured copies of everything, every transaction documented, every connection exposed. It's over, Marcus, his voice carries through their compromised communications. Your organization's finished, your buyers captured, your operation exposed. Surrender now. You don't understand what you've started. Kane's response carries genuine terror. The people behind this operation, they control everything. They'll eliminate anyone who threatens them. You mean like these people? Thomas transmits data. Through captured channels, international arms dealers, corrupt military contractors, government officials on criminal payrolls already being arrested worldwide. The effect is immediate. Resistance collapses as reality sets in. They're not facing local law enforcement or rival gangs. They're caught in an international operation run by someone who knows exactly how to dismantle criminal empires. Status. Report, Thomas demands, as federal teams secure sections. Main cache documented, Lisa confirms. All prototype weapons accounted for. International task force processing evidence. Clinic treating wounded, Sarah adds. Everyone cooperating. With federal agents, multiple confessions recorded. Through thermal imaging, Thomas tracks final movements. Professional operators following tactical protocols, thinking they're being unpredictable, not understanding those same protocols make them absolutely predictable. All teams maintain position, he orders calmly. Let them think they have options. Because the most effective hunt isn't about overwhelming force. Sometimes it's about patience, about letting your targets choose their own fate, about being the quiet predator they never see coming. Gunfire erupts as Kane's last stand begins. Contractors using military tactics, professional operators following combat protocols, not realizing they're playing directly into the Shadow's hands. Federal Team 2, move to position. Thomas coordinates through secure channels. Remember, they're desperate. Expect anything. The tunnel system trembles with final resistance. Some Red Serpent members surrender, while others fight hopelessly. Professional contractors discovering their tactical training means nothing against a Shadow who knows their every move. Sir, a contractor radios urgently. Buyers sent new orders. Say if we deliver prototypes directly, they'll guarantee extraction. They're lying. Kane's voice carries real understanding now. You deliver those weapons, they'll eliminate everyone who knows about this operation. He's right, but for the wrong reasons. Thomas's intelligence has already exposed the buyer's entire network. International task forces moving on multiple continents, closing every escape route. Movement at Junction 6, Lisa reports sharply. Final group making their move, heavy weapons visible. Copy. Thomas moves through darkness with practiced ease. All teams ready. Let them come to us. The Shadow has prepared this ground perfectly. Months of planning, of gathering intelligence, of setting the stage for this final confrontation. Now it's time to complete the operation. Time to show them why some hunters prefer to be underestimated. Thomas watches through command feeds as the operation expands far beyond Liberty Creek. Major players falling in 6 countries. Criminal networks collapsing. Decades of weapons trafficking exposed. Confirmed reports from Interpol, Lisa updates through secure channels. 3 senior arms dealers arrested in Belgrade. 2 military contractors detained in Hamburg, banking network exposed in Geneva. Kane's group, still cornered, in the tunnel system, receives the news with growing panic. Professional operators realizing they're caught in something much bigger than a local weapons deal. "Sir," a contractor radios urgently, "major players are falling. Everyone's getting burned." Kane's response carries desperate calculation. The prototype specs, they're worth millions to the right buyers if we can reach the backup site. But Thomas has already moved to cut off that option, his team securing the hidden facility they discovered through months of surveillance. Another piece of careful planning paying off. "Multiple vehicles approaching from county line," Sarah reports. "Looks like private military contractors, heavy equipment." "Copy." Thomas checks thermal imaging. "Lisa, coordinate with federal teams. Let's show them what they're really walking into." Because the Shadow hasn't just exposed a local operation, he's revealed an entire network of weapons trafficking, corrupt officials, and international arms deals. All carefully documented, all precisely tracked. 3 more Red Serpent members surrendering, Foster updates. Lisa adds, they're providing details about military connections, corrupt base commanders, diverted shipments. Perfect. The lower ranks breaking, revealing layers of conspiracy that reach into the highest levels of weapons procurement. Sheriff Thompson's patrol car speeds toward the county line, but Thomas has anticipated this move. Federal teams waiting at every escape route, every backup plan already countered. "Boss!" Viper radios frantically. "Just got word. They're burning everything. Offshore accounts emptied, shell companies dissolved, contact networks going dark." Through surveillance feeds, Thomas watches the criminal empire crumble. Years of careful construction falling apart as evidence reaches international authorities. "Sir," a contractor approaches Kane with fresh intelligence. Private military leadership is deploying cleanup teams. Orders are to eliminate all connections, all witnesses. Kane's face shows real understanding now. They're not just facing federal arrests. They're caught between international authorities and their own employers' attempt to erase evidence. "Federal Team 1, Thomas coordinates calmly. "Move to protect surrendering suspects. These cleanup teams aren't here to help them escape." Because he's seen this before. Criminal organizations trying to eliminate loose ends, erase connections, silence witnesses, not realizing every move is documented, every attempt at cover-up creating more evidence. "Multiple breaches in tunnel security," Lisa reports sharply. "Professional teams attempting infiltration, military-grade equipment." "Let them come," Thomas responds. "Show them what happens when they hunt on our ground." The Shadow has prepared for this contingency too. Hidden defenses activating, pre-positioned equipment responding, months of careful preparation revealed. They're not just here for the weapons, Sarah realizes, monitoring communications. These cleanup teams, they're after everyone who knows about the operation. Thomas allows himself a grim smile. "Exactly, which is why we're going to protect. Even the ones who surrendered, show them there's another way. Because sometimes the most effective strategy isn't about punishment. Sometimes it's about offering alternatives, showing better paths, turning enemies into assets." The tunnel system transforms as private military contractors attempt infiltration. Professional operators discovering their tactical advantages mean nothing against prepared defenses, against a Shadow who's anticipated their every move. "Sir." A younger Red Serpent member approaches Thomas as federal teams process surrendering suspects. "There's something you should know about why they really wanted this land. These tunnels." He listens as another layer of conspiracy reveals itself. The weapons were just the visible part. Beneath them lay deeper corruption, military secrets, international intrigue, all centered on this small Nebraska town. "Lisa," Thomas radios quietly, "coordinate with federal teams. Protect every witness. Secure every piece of evidence. This goes deeper than anyone suspected. Through command feeds, he watches the operation expand. International authorities moving on multiple continents, corrupt officials facing justice, criminal empires crumbling. They're not just weapons traffickers, Lisa realizes, reviewing evidence. This is bigger. Military secrets, classified technology, things that weren't supposed to exist. That's why they needed these tunnels, Thomas confirms. Perfect distribution network hidden in plain sight, using a gang as cover, using local corruption as camouflage. But they never expected a shadow to be watching. Never suspected that a quiet farmer had spent months documenting everything, preparing evidence, building an operation that would expose it all. Kane's radio crackles with desperate orders from his employers. Eliminate everything. No witnesses, no evidence, no connections. Too late. Thomas's teams have already secured what matters. The weapons, the evidence, the witnesses willing to talk. While Kane's employers attempt to erase their involvement, international authorities are following paper trails, tracking connections, exposing decades of corruption. The Shadows operation reaching far beyond Liberty Creek, beyond Nebraska, beyond American borders. Criminal empires learning too late why some predators prefer to be underestimated. Sheriff Thompson emerges from the shadows of Echo Point's office, clutching a metal briefcase, his face showing the strain of a man whose carefully built world is collapsing. Behind him, Kane and the remaining contractors secure their position. Around the prototype weapons. Sir, one of the tactical team leaders approaches urgently. We're getting reports cleanup teams have failed. Federal forces have control of all major exits. Thompson's response carries cold determination. Then we use the contingency. The prototypes weren't just for sale, they were insurance. Thomas watches through surveillance as Thompson opens the briefcase, revealing complex technical specifications. Documents that explain why so many powerful people were involved, why international arms dealers paid such high prices. Sarah, he radios quietly, are you seeing this? Affirmative, she responds. Those aren't just weapons designs, they're targeting data, military installations, defensive positions, classified facility locations. The real scope of the operation becomes clear. The weapons were just a cover for something bigger, stolen military intelligence being sold to the highest bidders. You don't understand what you're dealing with, Thompson shouts toward federal positions. These records, they're worth more than money. They're power, control. Through thermal imaging, Thomas spots movement in the upper offices. Kane's remaining loyalists preparing some kind of last stand while contractors argue about escape options. All units hold position, he orders calmly. Let them make their play. Thompson's voice carries desperate authority. Anyone who helps us get these documents out, there are buyers willing to pay millions, governments that'll provide protection. But his offer falls flat. Too many have already seen the evidence of what happens to protected assets once they're no longer useful. Multiple vehicles approaching from the north, Sarah updates. Not federal, looks like private security, heavy weapons. The real owners, Thomas confirms, coming to clean up their mess. Inside Echo Point, panic spreads as this news reaches. Kane's group. Professional operators recognize the implications. Their employers aren't coming to help. They're coming to eliminate loose ends. You promised us backup, Kane confronts Thompson. Said we'd have protection. Plans change. Thompson's hand moves toward his weapon. But maybe we can still bargain. With the prototypes, with the data. His words cut off as Thomas's next move unfolds. Every screen in the facility suddenly activates, showing surveillance footage, years of corrupt deals, weapons sales, classified documents changing hands. What you're seeing, his voice carries through their compromised communications, is being broadcast to federal authorities worldwide. Every deal, every sale, every betrayal. The effect is electric. Contractors turn on each other, years of professional discipline shattering. Kane's remaining loyalists split between surrender and desperate resistance. Federal Team 1, Lisa coordinates, move on the east entrance. They're about to break. Thompson makes his final move, grabbing the briefcase of documents. You don't understand what these records can do, the power they represent. Actually, Thomas's voice remains calm. I understand perfectly. Why do you think I spent months tracking every deal, following every connection, building a case that reaches into the highest levels? Through command feeds, he watches the operation's final phase unfold. Federal teams moving with precision, international authorities coordinating worldwide response, justice approaching from all sides. It's over, he tells Thompson directly. The real players are already under arrest. The classified data is being secured, the whole network exposed. The sheriff's composure finally breaks. You can't. These people, they control everything. Not anymore. Private security vehicles screech to a halt outside, but they're too late. Federal teams have already secured the facility, the evidence, the witnesses willing to talk. Sir, a contractor radios urgently. Just got word. Major. Players arrested in 6 countries. Military officials, defense contractors, government contacts. Everyone's going down. The last resistance crumbles. Years of corruption exposed. International arms deals revealed. Classified documents secured. The Shadows operation reaching far beyond one small Nebraska town. All teams move in, Thomas orders. Show them what happens when they threaten our community. Because the real victory isn't about weapons or documents. It's about justice, about protecting what matters, about showing that some predators should never be underestimated. Through his command network, Thomas watches as federal teams secure the facility. Kane and his remaining loyalists surrendering, contractors facing justice, Sheriff Thompson realizing the true scope of his mistakes. Multiple agencies reporting breakthroughs, Lisa updates. International arrests continuing, banking records exposed. The whole network's coming down, the Shadows hunt nearing its end, months of careful planning revealing corruption that reached into the highest levels, criminal empires learning too late why some hunters prefer to be underestimated. But there's still one final phase to complete, because somewhere in those documents, in that stolen data, lies evidence of something bigger, something that explains why so many powerful people were involved. The real truth is about to emerge. Inside the secured Echo Point facility, federal technicians pore over Thompson's briefcase contents. Thomas studies the documents, while Lisa coordinates with international authorities. The stolen data reveals more than weapons trafficking. It contains locations of classified military bases, weapons research facilities, and black sites across 3 continents. This goes deeper than arms dealing, Lisa says, reviewing decoded files. These are detailed security protocols, access codes, defense plans. Someone was mapping vulnerabilities, Thomas confirms, creating a blueprint for compromising military installations worldwide. A technician approaches with newly decrypted files. Sir, we found something else. Looks like personnel records, undercover operatives, deep cover agents, classified mission details. Sarah's voice carries urgency through their secure channel. More vehicles approaching from the west. Different signature than the others. Government plates. Through surveillance, Thomas spots a convoy of unmarked SUVs. Men in suits emerge carrying federal credentials, but their stance, their movement patterns suggest military background. Agent Mitchell, Defense Intelligence. The lead agent approaches Lisa. This operation is now under DIA jurisdiction. We'll take custody of all materials and suspects. Actually, Thomas steps forward, you won't. Because the Shadow hasn't just been hunting arms dealers. He's been gathering evidence of corruption within intelligence agencies themselves, of classified data being sold by the very people meant to protect it. "Stand down, Mr. Reeves," Mitchell warns. "You don't understand what you're dealing with." Wrong. He transmits data through secure channels. "I understand exactly what I'm dealing with, including who authorized the original theft of these documents." Mitchell's hand moves toward his weapon, but Lisa's deputies already have position. Federal tactical teams maintain their guard, uncertain who to trust. "Check your phones," Thomas tells the assembled agents. Right now, evidence is being transmitted to every major intelligence agency worldwide. Proof of who really orchestrated this operation. Through command feeds, he watches the impact. Senior officials arrested in Washington, military commanders taken into custody, intelligence operatives exposed across multiple agencies. "You think this ends here?" Mitchell demands. "In some small Nebraska town?" "No," Thomas agrees. "It ends in oversight committee hearings, in international courts, in full exposure of everyone involved. Because the Shadow hasn't just disrupted a weapons operation, he's uncovered a conspiracy reaching into the highest levels of military intelligence. People who sold national secrets while pretending to protect them." "Lisa," he radios quietly, "execute final phase." Suddenly, every screen in the facility activates. Surveillance footage showing classified documents being sold, military officials accepting bribes, intelligence agents betraying their oaths. "What you're seeing," Thomas announces, "is being broadcast through secured networks to intelligence agencies worldwide. Every deal, every betrayal, every act of treason documented." Mitchell's team realizes the trap too late. They're not just facing local law enforcement or federal agents. They're caught in an operation planned by someone who understands exactly how intelligence agencies work. "All sectors reporting," Lisa updates. "Multiple agencies moving on identified. Targets, senior officials taken into custody, classified materials secured. The Shadow's operation reaching into the heart of military intelligence, exposing corruption that had festered for years, hidden behind badges and credentials and claims of national security. You've started a war, Mitchell warns as his team surrenders. These people, their connections reach everywhere. So no, Thomas corrects him, I've ended one, a war against the very principles you swore to protect. Through his command network, he watches justice unfold. Corrupt officials facing consequences, classified documents secured, years of treason exposed. Because sometimes the most dangerous predator isn't the one with a badge or credentials. Sometimes it's the quiet one, the patient one, the one who remembers what real service means. Federal Task Force reports success across all sectors, Lisa confirms. The entire network identified, every conspirator exposed. But there's still one piece missing, one final revelation that explains why so many powerful people risked everything. In those stolen documents lies a secret worth killing for. The real truth is about to emerge. Buried deep in Thompson's files, federal technicians uncover a hidden folder marked Project Echo. The name sends a chill through Thomas. It's the same operation designation from his final military mission, the one that forced him into retirement. These dates, Lisa examines the documents. They align with major security breaches at 6. Military installations, places where prototype weapons mysteriously disappeared. Not just weapons, Thomas realizes, scanning mission reports. Test subjects, military personnel subjected to experimental combat enhancement programs that were supposedly shut down. The Shadow's final hunt is about to begin, and the darkest secrets are yet to come. A young technician rushes in with new decryptions. "Sir, we found lists, dozens of former Special Forces operators. all declared killed in action, but their files show active status. Through surveillance, Thomas spots movement at Echo Point's perimeter, different from previous tactical teams. These operators move with unnatural precision, their thermal signatures notably cooler than normal human readings. "All units, defensive positions," he orders through secure channels. "We've got enhanced operators incoming." Because Project Echo wasn't just about stealing military secrets, it was about creating the perfect soldiers, using volunteered veterans as test subjects, men and women transformed into living weapons. Director Marshall sends regards. A voice carries inhuman clarity through the darkness. Says you should have stayed retired, Shadowmaker. Thomas recognizes the speaker, Captain James Walker, reportedly killed in Afghanistan, now moving with mechanical efficiency, leading a team of similarly enhanced operators. "James," he responds carefully, "they told us you died in that attack." "Evolved" is more accurate. Walker's movements blur with impossible speed. Project Echo gave us everything: strength, speed, enhanced cognition. Why do you think they really wanted these tunnels? Perfect facility for continuing the program. Lisa's voice carries controlled urgency through comms. Multiple contacts, enhanced signatures. They're surrounding the facility. But Thomas has prepared for this too, because he hasn't just been hunting arms dealers or corrupt officials. He's been tracking the program that turned good soldiers into unwilling weapons. The program wasn't advancement, he tells Walker. It was exploitation, using desperate veterans, promising cures for combat trauma while turning them into test subjects. "We're the future of warfare," Walker responds, but uncertainty edges. His voice, "the next evolution of military power." "You're victims," Thomas corrects. "And I've got proof. Project files showing what they really did to you, the real mortality rates, the failed experiments they covered up." Through thermal imaging, he watches enhanced operators process this information, their inhuman coordination, wavering as buried memories surface. "Sarah," Thomas signals quietly, "initiate Protocol Omega." Suddenly, Echo Point speakers activate, broadcasting a specific frequency. The enhanced operators stagger as hidden programming activates. Fail-safes built into their augmentations, now turned against their controllers. What's happening?" Walker's mechanical precision falters. "These signals, breaking their control," Thomas explains, "freeing you from programming masked as enhancement, letting you remember who you really are." Because the Shadow hasn't just been gathering evidence, he's been working with military doctors, finding ways to reverse what Project Echo did to its test subjects, to save good soldiers from being used as weapons. Multiple agents responding. Lisa updates. Medical teams standing by, specialists in neural programming, combat trauma, psychological warfare. Through command feeds, Thomas watches similar scenes unfold nationwide. Enhanced operators breaking free from control. Project Echo facilities being exposed. The real perpetrators facing justice. "They said we volunteered." Walker's voice carries returning humanity. "Said we were advancing military science." "They lied," Thomas confirms. "Used soldiers' loyalty against them. Turned trauma victims into unwilling weapons. But now you get to choose, to reclaim who you really are." Project Echo's true architects face a reckoning, not just for weapons trafficking or selling secrets, but for experimenting on veterans, for betraying the very people they claimed to support. Director Marshall is under arrest, Lisa reports. Project files exposed. Medical teams mobilizing to help affected veterans. The Shadow's operation revealing its final purpose, not just exposing corruption or stopping arms dealers, but saving good soldiers from being used as weapons, helping them find their way home. In the end, that's what really matters, not the weapons or the secrets or the conspiracies, but remembering that behind every operation, every mission, every battle, there are real people worth fighting for. Walker and his team surrender to medical custody, not as enhanced weapons or failed experiments, but as veterans deserving help, as soldiers finding their way back to humanity. The Shadows' hunt is complete. Justice served not just through force or exposure, but through understanding, through remembering that sometimes the greatest victory isn't defeating your enemy. Sometimes it's helping them remember who they really are. As medical teams work to free more enhanced operators from their programming, Thomas watches his old friend Walker begin the long journey back to himself. Because some shadows don't just hunt, they protect, they save, they bring light to those trapped in darkness. The real mission, he realizes, is just beginning. Dawn breaks over Liberty Creek as medical evacuation helicopters descend on Echo Point. Thomas oversees the treatment of Walker and his enhanced operators, each receiving specialized care to begin reversing Project Echo's modifications. Neural programming is breaking down, Foster reports, checking medical readings. Their original memories are resurfacing. It's like waking from a long nightmare. The town itself transforms as federal teams process arrests, Red Serpent members facing charges or turning state's evidence, corrupt officials led away in handcuffs, military contractors discovering their employers have already made deals with, and prosecutors. Found something else, Lisa approaches with newly secured files. Project Echo wasn't just creating enhanced soldiers, they were selling the technology, trading American military secrets to foreign powers. Through the clinic windows, Thomas watches more unmarked vehicles arrive. Military specialists, trauma experts, neural programming analysts, all coordinating to help the enhanced operators recover. They're starting to remember, Foster updates, stepping out of a treatment room. Combat missions they never officially participated in, operations on American soil, things they were made to do while under control. The scope of betrayal becomes clear. Project Echo didn't just experiment on veterans, it used them as deniable assets, sending controlled operators to eliminate threats, silence witnesses, enforce corrupt officials' will. William arrives with more evidence gathered from bank records, money trails showing how Project Echo funded itself by selling enhanced soldier technology to the highest bidders. Director Marshall's accounts are exposed, he reports. Offshore holdings, shell companies, hidden payments, the whole financial network mapped. But Thomas's focus remains on the recovering operators, good soldiers who were betrayed, exploited, turned into weapons against their will. Their recovery matters more than any criminal prosecution. How many others? Walker asks weakly from his hospital bed. How many more like us are still out there, still under their control? We'll find them, Thomas promises. Every facility, every test subject, every victim of Project Echo, and we'll bring them home. Because the Shadow's mission isn't over. Echo's architects might face justice, its facilities might be exposed, but there are still enhanced operators out there, still good soldiers needing rescue. Multiple agencies coordinating worldwide response, Lisa updates. Special Forces teams moving on identified Echo facilities, medical units standing by for recovery operations. Through secure channels, Thomas monitors similar scenes unfolding across the country, enhanced operators breaking free from control, hidden facilities exposed, a decades-long nightmare finally ending. Sarah returns from town with news of Liberty Creek's recovery, the community coming together, helping federal teams identify corruption, supporting families affected by Red Serpent's activities. Towns changing, she observes. People aren't afraid anymore. They're standing up, speaking out, reclaiming their home. Because that's what really matters, not just exposing conspiracies or stopping corruption, but helping communities heal, helping people find strength they didn't know they had. Military medical teams arrive with specialized equipment, beginning the delicate process of removing Echo's modifications. restoring natural neural patterns, helping soldiers reclaim their humanity. It's working, Foster confirms, checking new readings. The programming is breaking down. Their original personalities are reasserting. Through the clinic's security feeds, Thomas watches similar transformations unfold. Enhanced operators, remembering who they were, what was done to them, how they were betrayed. We found more files. Lisa approaches with fresh intelligence. Lists of other Echo facilities, places where they're still creating enhanced operators. Thomas studies the data, already planning next moves. Because while Liberty Creek might be saved, while this group of soldiers might be recovering, there are others still out there, still needing rescue. What happens now? Walker asks, his voice carrying returning humanity. To all of us, to everything they made us do? Now you heal, Thomas tells him. You remember who you really are, and maybe when you're ready you help us find the others. Because sometimes the greatest victory isn't in defeating your enemy. Sometimes it's in helping their victims recover, in turning weapons back into warriors, warriors back into people. As the sun rises higher over Liberty Creek, Thomas watches medical teams work, federal agents process evidence, community members rebuild. The Shadows' hunt may be complete, but the real work is just beginning. Because some battles aren't won with weapons or tactics. Some victories come through healing, through understanding, through remembering that behind every operation, every conspiracy, every conflict, there are people worth saving. The real mission continues. 1 week after Project Echo's exposure, Liberty Creek hosts a closed congressional hearing. Military officials, intelligence directors, and oversight committees gather in the renovated town hall, processing the full scope of what happened in their quiet Nebraska community. The weapons operation was just the surface, Lisa testifies, presenting evidence to stunned committee members. Red Serpent, the corrupt officials, the arms dealing, all of it provided cover for Echo's true purpose. Thomas observes from the back, noting familiar faces among the gathered authorities. Former commanders, intelligence directors, people who once ordered his retirement, now facing consequences for their actions. Director Marshall's files reveal facilities in 6 countries, a committee member announces, each creating enhanced operators, each selling the technology to foreign powers, the biggest breach of military security in decades. Outside, the town shows signs of recovery. William's store reopened stronger than ever. Foster's clinic expanded with specialized treatment areas. Lisa coordinating with a new, uncorrupted sheriff's department. They're asking for you, Sarah mentions quietly as Thomas monitors the proceedings. The enhanced operators, they want your help finding the others. Because the Shadow's reputation has spread, other controlled operators learning about Liberty Creek, about Project Echoes, exposure, about soldiers finding freedom from neural programming. We've identified 3 more facilities, Lisa approaches during a break. Underground labs, using the same tunnel networks Red Serpent controlled, places where they're still creating enhanced soldiers. The committee reviews Thomas's full operation. How he spent years tracking Echo's activities, gathering evidence, preparing to expose not just corruption, but systematic betrayal of American soldiers. These men and women were heroes, a general testifies, voice heavy with shame. Combat veterans seeking treatment for trauma. Instead, they were turned into weapons, used for unauthorized operations on American soil. Walker, now free from Echo's control, provides crucial testimony, describing the programming process, the loss of identity, the missions they were forced to perform while under neural control. There are others out there, he tells the committee, good soldiers trapped like we were, still being used as weapons, still needing rescue. Thomas studies tactical data on his secure tablet, satellite imagery of suspected Echo facilities, intelligence reports of enhanced operator activities, a mission slowly taking shape. They're forming a special task force, Lisa informs him during lunch break. Military oversight, medical support, full federal backing. They want you to lead it. Because who better to hunt Echo's remaining facilities than the Shadow, the operator who exposed their operation, who helped their victims recover, who knows exactly how they think. Marshall wasn't the only one running these programs, a committee member reveals. We've identified other directors, other facilities, other versions of Project Echo. This goes deeper than anyone suspected. Thomas watches the hearing unfold. While considering options, the Shadow could retire again, return to quiet farm life, but there are still soldiers out there needing rescue, still victims requiring justice. The enhanced operators want to help, Sarah mentions. Once they've recovered, they want to use what was done to them to help save others. Through secure channels, Thomas monitors similar hearings worldwide. Other nations discovering Echo, facilities on their soil, other governments realizing how their military secrets were compromised. This isn't just about justice anymore, Lisa observes. It's about saving people, about helping soldiers find their way home. The committee concludes with a clear mandate: find the remaining facilities, shut down the programs, rescue the operators. Do whatever it takes to end Project Echo permanently. We'll need a team, Thomas tells Lisa quietly. People we can trust. People who understand what we're really fighting for. Because the Shadow's work isn't finished. Echo's architects might face justice, its victims might begin recovery, but there are other facilities out there, other soldiers needing rescue. A new mission takes shape. Not about revenge or justice or exposing conspiracies, but about saving those who can't save themselves, about helping warriors remember who they really are. The real work continues because sometimes the most important battles aren't fought with weapons, but with understanding, with patience, with the determination to bring light to those trapped in darkness. And as Thomas reviews the files of other Echo facilities, he knows the Shadow isn't done hunting yet. There are still predators to face, still victims to save, still soldiers waiting to be reminded of their humanity. The next chapter begins. As autumn touches the Bitterroot Valley, Thomas stands on his farm porch one last time, the morning sun painting the fields gold, just like it did when this all started. But everything else has changed. Teams assembled. Lisa approaches, now wearing federal tactical gear. Walker and the recovered operators are ready. Medical unit standing by, just waiting on your order. In town, Liberty Creek shows its resilience. Williams' store serves as a community center, helping families rebuild. Foster's clinic specializes in treating trauma victims. A new, uncorrupted police force protects restored streets. Congress approved everything. Sarah hands Thomas mission. Files. Full authority, unlimited resources, complete operational freedom. They really want these remaining Echo facilities shut down. Through his tactical tablet, Thomas reviews the assembled team. Former Echo victims now turned rescuers. Medical specialists in neural programming. Federal agents who proved their integrity during the crisis. First target identified. Lisa spreads satellite photos across the porch rail. Underground facility in the Caucasus Mountains. Intel suggests 30 enhanced operators being held there. Local military providing cover. The farm itself transforms into forward operations base. Hidden equipment rises from concealed bunkers. Communication arrays activate. A Shadow's hunting ground becoming command center for a larger mission. You don't have to do this, Sarah reminds her friend softly. We could stay, help the town recover, let others handle the remaining facilities. But Thomas watches Walker training with his fellow recovered operators, good soldiers learning. To use their enhanced abilities for rescue instead of violence, warriors remembering their true purpose. Some fights choose you, he responds, checking his tactical gear. Some missions matter more than retirement. Because the Shadow's work isn't finished. Echo's architects might face justice here. Its victims might begin recovery in Liberty Creek, but there are other facilities out there, other soldiers still trapped in neural programming. Latest intel downloaded, Lisa updates. Facility layouts, security protocols, guard rotations. They're still using Red Serpent's old tunnel design, still thinking like predictable predators. The town gathers to bid farewell as vehicles arrive. Not just local residents, but committee members, military officials, intelligence directors, all understanding the importance of what starts here. Remember what you promised, Walker tells the assembled authorities. Full pardons for enhanced operators who help shut down Echo, new identities for their families, real support for recovery. Thomas studies his assembled team while final preparations finish. Former victims becoming rescuers, wounded warriors finding new purpose, a Shadow's hunting pack taking shape. First team deploys in 30 minutes. Lisa coordinates through command. Channels. Medical units and recovery transport standing by. Local assets confirming target security patterns. Through secure feeds, Thomas monitors similar preparations worldwide. Other nations mobilizing against Echo facilities on their soil. Other agencies realizing the true scope of what they're fighting. This isn't about revenge anymore, he tells his gathered operators. Not about justice or exposure or even stopping corruption. This is about saving people who can't save themselves, about helping warriors remember who they really are. The morning sun climbs higher as vehicles start moving out. A quiet Nebraska farm becoming launching point for a mission that will span continents. A Shadow's hunt expanding to save others trapped in Shadow. See you soon, Sarah says simply, as Thomas boards the lead vehicle, both knowing some battles matter more than comfort, some missions worth leaving home to complete. Because sometimes the most important victory isn't in defeating your enemy. Sometimes it's about saving those they've trapped, about helping good soldiers find their way back to the light. A new hunt begins, but this time the Shadow isn't alone. This time he leads a pack of hunters, each carrying personal understanding of what they're fighting, each committed to saving others from what was done to them. Through the vehicle's window, Thomas watches Liberty Creek fade into morning mist, one small town that proved some predators should never be underestimated. Some hunters remember exactly who they are. The Shadow rides to war again, but this time he hunts to save, not destroy. This time he leads a mission of rescue, not revenge. The real work continues, because sometimes the most effective weapon against darkness isn't more darkness. It's remembering the light, rekindling it in others, bringing it to those who've forgotten its warmth. And as Thomas reviews the mission plans one final time, he knows the next chapter isn't about hunting predators, but about saving their prey, about reminding lost warriors of their humanity, about bringing them home. The Shadow's next mission begins, and this time he hunts for hope. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.